Have you ever made a decision out of pure desperation? A choice you thought was necessary to survive, only to find out later that it caused a catastrophe you never intended? This is where the story of heroes gets complicated. It's where the lines between right and wrong get blurry, and the true weight of leadership begins to settle. Welcome back to Bible Hero Saga, where the stories we think we know have truths we've yet to uncover. Last time, we left David, the giant slayer, as a hero turned hunted. He fled the palace with nothing but the clothes on his back and a spear hole in the wall where his head used to be. The man he served, King Saul, was now his would-be murderer. He was alone, desperate, and running for his life. With nowhere else to turn, he heads for the one place of sanctuary he can think of, the holy city of Nob, home to the priests of Israel. He's looking for food, a weapon, and a moment to breathe. But what he's about to do will light a fuse that leads to one of the most horrific tragedies in the Old Testament. Picture the city of Nob. It's not a fortress, it's a town of peace, centered around the tabernacle, the holy tent of God. The high priest, a man named Ahimelech, sees David approaching alone and is immediately alarmed. In those days, a commander of David's fame didn't travel without an escort. He comes out to meet him, his face etched with concern. "Why are you alone?" he asks. "Why is no one with you?" And here we come to the first incredibly complex lesson of this story. The David, the man of faith, the one who trusted God to guide his stone, looks the high priest in the eye, and he lies. He spins a tale about being on a top-secret mission for King Saul, a mission so urgent he couldn't wait for his men. He says his men are waiting for him at an appointed place. It's a convincing story, crafted to quell the fears of the priest. And it works. David asks for two things, bread and a weapon. Ahimelech is hesitant. The only bread he has is the holy showbread, the bread of the presence, which was placed before the Lord in the tabernacle. By law, only the priests were allowed to eat it. But looking at David, a servant of the king who appears to be in desperate need, Ahimelech makes a judgment call. He bends the ceremonial law to meet a human need. He gives David the bread. Then, David asks for a weapon. Ahimelech replies, "The sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, is here. It's wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you want it, take it. There is no other here." Think about that. The very symbol of David's greatest triumph, his proof of God's favor, has been kept as a holy relic. And now, in his moment of greatest desperation, it's being returned to him. David takes the massive sword, a legend in his own hands, and departs. But they weren't alone. The entire exchange was witnessed by a man named Doeg the Edomite. The Bible identifies him as the chief of Saul's herdsmen. But he's more than that. He's an opportunist, a man whose loyalty isn't to God or even to justice, but to power. He sees this meeting. He sees the high priest giving aid to the man Saul now hates, and he tucks this information away. It's currency he can spend later to get ahead. And this is our next high-value lesson. In any organization, in any circle of power, beware the man who silently collects information, waiting for the perfect moment to use it for his own advancement. Doeg is that man. Doeg races back to King Saul, and just as you'd expect, he delivers his report with the sharpest possible edge, framing the encounter in the worst possible light. He tells the king that Ahimelech didn't just help David. He inquired of the Lord for him and gave him provisions and the sword of Goliath. In the ears of a paranoid king, this isn't an act of compassion. It's an act of treason. Saul explodes. His paranoia, fed by that tormenting spirit, now has a target. He summons Ahimelech and all 85 priests of Nob to his court. He stands before them, his face a mask of fury, and accuses them of conspiring with David to overthrow him. Ahimelech answers with pure, bewildered innocence. He says, "Who among all of your servants is as faithful as David, the king's own son-in-law, who is captain of your bodyguard and is honored in your house? Was that the first time I inquired of the Lord for him? No, let not the king impute anything to his servant." He's basically saying, I was helping your most loyal commander, just as I've always done. But paranoia doesn't listen to reason. Saul's heart is cold. He looks at the high priest and sentences him and his entire family to death. And then the scene gets even darker. Saul turns to his own royal guards and commands them, "Turn and kill the priests of the Lord." But the guards, these battle-hardened soldiers, they refuse. They will not raise their hands against the anointed priests of God. Even they can see that this is a line that cannot be crossed. It is a monstrous, unforgivable order. The king's authority has hit a wall of divine reverence. So Saul, enraged by their disobedience, looks around the room and his eyes land on the one man he knows has no such morals. He looks to the outsider, the opportunist. He commands, "You, Doeg, you turn and strike the priests." And Doeg, the Edomite, without hesitation, draws his sword and carries out the king's murderous rage. He murders all 85 priests right there, but his evil doesn't stop there. He then goes to the city of Nob itself and puts the entire town to the sword. Men, women, children, infants, and even their livestock. It is a complete and utter annihilation. A holy city wiped from the face of the earth, all because of a king's paranoia and a desperate man's lie. Only one person escapes the slaughter, Abiathar, one of Ahimelech's sons. He flees and finds his way to David in the wilderness. When he tells David what happened, we see a profound shift in our hero. The weight of what has happened crashes down on him. There are no excuses, there is no blame shifting. There is only the crushing weight of responsibility. David looks at the grieving Abiathar and says one of the most heartbreaking lines in his entire story. "I knew on that day, when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, 'I have occasioned the death of all the persons of your father's house.'" This is the lesson that forges the boy hero into a man. David understands that his choices, even when made for his own survival, have devastating consequences for others. This guilt, this burden, will shape his leadership for the rest of his life. He isn't just fighting giants on the battlefield anymore. He's fighting the ghosts of his own decisions. David takes Abiathar into his protection, and the priest and his holy ephod now travel with David's growing band of outcasts. But the world has changed. Saul is no longer just a jealous king. He's a mass-murdering tyrant, and his hunt for David is more frenzied than ever before. David is no longer just a popular hero. He's the fugitive king, the leader of a rebel movement, and a man carrying the heavy burden of the blood of Nob on his hands. He is now responsible for every life that follows him into the wilderness. His next choices won't just be about survival. They'll be about building a new kind of kingdom, even while being hunted by the old one. Join us next time for Bible Hero Saga, as David gathers his mighty men and wages a guerrilla war from the caves and wastelands of ancient Israel.